Hello, and welcome to the Keeping Your Marriage Hot and Holy show, the podcast where we explore how to keep your marriage both passionate and spiritually grounded. I am Chara Taylor, your hot and holy love coach, and today we're going to be diving into the topic of sex and why the church is so silent. Yes, you heard that right. Why does the church shy away from talking about something that God created and why it is time to change that? All right, let's dig in. So, for many of us, the church has been silent on this topic. And if not silent, then there has been a lot of unhealthy teachings, which has led to confusion, shame, and even harm. But what if reclaiming this conversation in the church could actually bring healing and deeper intimacy in our relationships and in our faith? I first want to start off by just saying we should give the church a break and we should cut the church some slack. Here's why I say that. The ultimate reason and purpose behind church is to help unbelievers come into the knowledge and salvation, receiving salvation and following Christ, building the kingdom. That is the primary reason for those followers of Christ to come together to have a place of worship where they can pray and be amongst each other. It was not for sex. It was not for sexual teachings. That was not the purpose of church. That just happens to be a benefit of attending church. You should be able to get some healthy teachings from the church because sex is a God-ordained covenant made for married couples. So because God is the one who ordained it, maybe the church should have something to say about it. But maybe we should keep in mind that not all church leaders are equipped to handle the subject. And so maybe we should cut them some break because it's also an obligation for those who are seeking help to seek help outside of the church by connecting with professionals in the field. Because those who come to church, the leaders of the church, they're probably more focused and educated in the knowledge of theology, Christology, and things of that nature. So there's nothing wrong with those who are seeking to grow in that area to seek some help outside of the church. And in that way, we're not putting so much pressure on the leaders of the church. But I do think that the leaders of the churches can have some responsibility, even if it is bringing in professionals and having seminars or workshops and things of that nature. I think that would be fair and that would be helpful. All right, so let's really get into this topic. Let's start with a foundational truth. Sex was God's idea. In Genesis 2:24, he says, "That is why a man leaves his father and his mother and is united to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." So from the very beginning, God designed sex to be a good and sacred gift, not just for procreation, but for connection, intimacy, and joy. We want to establish that up front because some of the teachings has been that sex is only designed for reproduction. Well, I don't know if that's completely true because there are several people who are barren. So if it's designed for reproduction, then wouldn't everybody be able to reproduce? So God created sex for more than just procreation, although that is a part of it with the whole be fruitful and multiply. So those who are able to be fruitful and multiply have fun doing it. And those who are unable to be fruitful and multiply, then they should just enjoy the connection, the intimacy, and the joy of the benefit. Sex is a benefit of marriage, and we should embrace that benefit. It seems like that somewhere along the line, the church began treating sex as a taboo topic for reasons unknown. Something that we shouldn't talk about, except, they hit the high points on what we should not do. There's a whole lot of teachings on the don'ts, but here at Awaken Love, we like to focus on what you can do while making sure you understand the restrictions, but also understanding the liberties that come along with it. So teaching the whole teaching of do not have sex until you're married, that is great and very well intentioned. And we want to make sure that we keep putting that before those who are single. but we should not shy away from talking about what happens once you are actually in the relationship. What's very interesting is that the Bible doesn't shy away from talking about sex, and so neither should we. So the whole book of Song of Solomon is a book celebrating romantic and physical love between a husband and a wife. And that's not the only one. There's other teachings on enjoying and what that means and what that looks like for couples. And what happens when the church is silent, then it forces, or it not forces, it leaves it open for people to seek instruction from culture and getting unhealthy practices from culture instead of getting whole healthy practices and advice and wisdom and guidance from where it was originally ordained. All right. And so that's why we need to not only talk about it for in our homes and be healthy with it in our homes. Our children need to know and see examples of couples enjoying their marriage holistically so that they can feel comfortable coming to their parents to get information as they continue to mature and grow and lead into these areas, and not leave it up to them finding out on at TV or at school, because that is how a lot of people have gotten their information. And we see that that has not worked very well. Another common myth that has happened in the church world for talking about sex is that it is for men only. So it has been put out there that sex is predominantly for men and women just need to do whatever it is the man wants to do, which is an inappropriate teaching. It is created for them both. It's not created just for the man. And I do a whole nother segment on the woman and how she should know her anatomy, because she needs to understand what her body is capable of and be able to enjoy it. All right. Well, let's talk about why we really need to normalize this conversation. It gives people a safe, godly framework for understanding sexuality. It equips the singles to navigate dating and understand respect and boundaries. But it helps couples to address intimacy issues without feeling like they are alone. Because a lot of people feel like they can't open up, they can't talk about it because they don't want any guilt or shame to come up on them. So if the church talks about it, it can create a space for healing for those who have experienced trauma or abuse. So there's many benefits to the church actually having a part in this conversation. So when the church speaks about it, it pushes back against the lies and the shame and the distortions of the culture. It creates healthier, more Christ-centered views of the gift that we have been given. Now, how can the churches start this conversation? The churches can start with addressing it by pointing out that it's normal, that it's healthy, and that it's biblically sound. Pastors and leaders need to get comfortable addressing it from the pulpit. But if they're not, like I said earlier, then they can bring in professionals, have question and answer sessions, host workshops, do different things so that this is normalized. Or they can have specialized ministry in small groups, offer counseling to trauma survivors and groups for couples. Let's not forget that education for the parents and the teens. Parents need to be equipped so that the conversations at home give teens a biblical perspective and help them not feel shame either. So I am going to wrap this up because I just wanted to hit some highlights and some points on why the church is silent. So just wanted to reiterate that maybe the church is silent because they're not equipped to really handle this subject and should bring in some professionals. So maybe we should cut the church some slack. Okay, maybe we should cut them some slack. But it is time for the church to do a little bit more and not overlook it and not act like it's not happening, because a lot of marriages are struggling and are suffering right in the church because they are having issues and complexities in this area of sex. Silence breeds shame, but truth brings freedom. God's design for sex is good, and when we embrace that, we can experience His best for our relationships and our lives. So let's start the conversation. Let's talk to our church leaders, to small groups, or even your friends. And if the church can't bring anyone in, then don't let that stop you from getting what it is that you need for your marriage. You have the complete freedom to seek some help outside of the church doors. There are Christian organizations, there are marriage ministries, there are counseling firms and companies. There's so many different ways for you to get what it is that you need, that you can have a healthy sex life, even if the church is silent. All right, thank you so much for listening to me today. I do hope that this episode has resonated with you. I ask you to share it with your friends. Leave me a review. Let me know, all right? Just remember that this conversation doesn't stop here. We can continue to talk about it. I encourage your feedback. You can contact me on my email at awakenlovemm@gmail.com, or follow me on any of the social media platforms out there as the Hot and Holy Love Coach, and I look forward to connecting with you. I'm praying that your 2025 is filled with blessings and favor beyond measure. But even more, I'm praying that your marriage is hot and holy. So until next time, practice being 50 Shades of Free and Freaky. Keep it hot and holy.